אש הקודש ברי בתוכי, התשוקתי ברי בתוכי, אש הקודש ברי בתוכי, התשוקתי ברי בתוכי. קדש את ליבי, קדש את נפשי, קדש את גופי לעבוד אותך. אדוני, קדש את ליבי, קדש את נפשי, קדש את גופי לעבוד אותך.
She lost 5 family members. They're still traumatized. True friends love at all times. Amen. All the cars of the victims of the Nova Party and others represent the people. He's a Jewish lion and he's roaring from heaven for the restoration of his people.
Let the Lion of Judah win!
So we are going now to accompany our team as they are volunteering during this tour in the farm of Erna Kovos right here in Beit Hogla, where we have our Sukkot Yehoshua and our retreat house and our date palm orchard. And you know, during this time, and especially after the war, after the massacre of October 7, the farmers have been short-handed. They haven't had enough people to help. First of all, because many of the farms have also foreigners that are helping them. But also for another reason is that, for example, in this particular farm, Erna has many times young people that come to help her, but many of those young people were drafted into the army, so they've been short-handed. So when we came here with this tour, we decided to have our people, at least for 2 hours, just bless her and work here as a volunteer. And so let's go see them. Oh, here they are. Let's see what Erna is going to give them to do. I think she's going to have them clean up all around the date palms. And I'm thinking about, why is it so important to help in the agriculture of Israel? And in any case, we're in the high-tech time, high-tech arena. Why would we need to work the land? Isn't it better to do everything robotical? Well, the Bible tells us that agriculture is going to be a very important factor in the return and the restoration of Israel. In fact, when we go to Ezekiel 36, that it says that he's going to return us from all the lands where he has scattered us, and we will come back to this land. It talks about many things, and among other things, it also talks about the importance of agriculture. And it says that the land shall be tilled, and the land shall be sown, and there will be reaping in the land, and there will be not any more famine like the Jewish people suffered in the nations. And sometimes many people think the Jewish people, well, they're all rich and millionaires in the nations, throughout all these 2,000 years of exile. But I'm going to tell you, for example, as a Sephardic Jew, I come from a community in Macedonia, used to be ancient Yugoslavia under the Turkish Empire. And the people there, for example, of my Sephardic community were very poor, very poor. In fact, the taxes that the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire imposed upon the Jews was so draconic, and they kept on upping the taxes every time, and the only way for the Jews to be at peace was to keep on paying more and more and more taxes, to the point where actually they became very impoverished communities. And then there would be many fires. Often it would be arson, kind of acts of persecution against the Jews, and entire villages would burn down, and they'd have to be rebuilt again. So the legend that the Jews in exile were all rich and multimillionaires is absolutely fake. It's not a truth. It's true that many of the Jews that arrived to the United States of America at the beginning of the 19th century and on, they managed to work very hard and make a life for themselves. Very hard. And in America, there were more opportunities than there were in Europe. And so they make a life for themselves. But even in America, when they arrived, for example, they suffered from anti-Semitism very seriously. For example, in all of Florida, the Jews, there was signs that says no Jews, no niggers allowed here. Niggers meaning the black people. So Jews and the black people were put together in the same boat, not allowed in certain areas. And then, for example, they were not allowed to go to the hospital, to the public hospital. And so Jews couldn't be taken care of in the public hospitals. What did they do? They built up their own hospital. And so we can see here that when Yah says in his word in Ezekiel 36 that he's going to return us to the land, and then he goes ahead and he talks to the mountains to bring forth fruit and to bring forth vegetables and to have cattle on it and to have farming going on, and that finally we were going to come to a land that really is going to flow milk and honey. I mean, we're going to have to work hard at it, but it will flow milk and honey, and there will be no more famine for us in the land. It's a very important statement because many of the Jews in exile did suffer from that famine. Not to mention that every time Jews were expelled from one country to another, and every time they were expelled, they suffered famine again. And not to mention that finally, when we arrived to the 20th century and to 1938 and on, we have the Shoah, the Nazi Holocaust, where Jews are displaced completely and definitely were starved to death inside of the camps in Poland and in Germany and all over Eastern Europe, in Russia and Ukraine, many different places. They were starved to death and they lost all of their possessions. You know, the work that you're doing is very important so that the dates can actually grow healthy and strong. And, you know, that's what I love about our people. You know, I didn't even ask them, do you want to do farm work? I just told them, you're going to do farm work. And nobody said, oh, no, we don't want to do farm work. Because they know the importance of supporting Israel, especially in the area of agriculture. And, you know, I was talking about the land bringing forth the fruit, you know, like in this case, the dates. Now, we did plant an orchard here, and there is a Unify sign somewhere in one of the orchards over there. But let's not take it for granted, because many pilgrims that came to the land of promise to Israel, even through the 18th and the 19th century, including Mark Twain, they left all kinds of writings. And in the writings, they said the land is desolate. The land has no inhabitants. The land has no fruits, no vegetables. Nothing is growing here. Even Mark Twain said that he saw a bunch of goats and they were eating nothing but gravel because there was nothing else to eat. And so when we're dealing with having palm trees coming out of the ground, or pomegranate or figs or anything that's coming out of the ground in Israel, and you take it for granted, like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, not here, because when the Jewish people were exiled outside of the land, then this land became desolate. You know, when the Romans took over and it became Provincia Palestina, you know, that was the name they called it, Palestine. Though Palestine is not the name of the land at all, it's the land of Judah, the land of Israel, but certainly not Palestine. But they called it that way because of spite, kind of like the Philistines, the enemies of the people of Israel, so they call it Palestine. And that's the reason why many people are trying to reverse the name to Palestine again. But honestly, when Mark Twain and all of these people came here, there were no Palestinians here. There were no Arabs almost at all. There were very few Arabs in few villages. It was a very skimpy population, almost not much. And the land was not yielding nothing, because in fact the Turks went ahead and they imposed a tax during the 400-year rule that they ruled here from the 16th to the 20th century until the British Mandate. They actually they imposed a tax on the trees. So everybody that had trees cut their trees not to pay taxes. So the land became a desolation. The land became a desert. Nobody really cared for this land. They just wanted to use it, you know, use it and abuse it, but nothing about caring for this land at all. They were not caring for it. And so when we see fruits coming out of the ground, we can say that the promises of Yah about the restoration of Israel are on. And if we are clever and wise, we are going to join with the restoration of Israel. We are going to join with what he wrote in his word, and we are going to support what Israel is doing in tilling the land. And that leads me to something else. Come here. Okay, go. Follow there. I don't know what she's telling you to do. Well, let's follow. Maybe we follow. Let's follow. Let's follow. They are cleaning those trees. Okay, so stay on your places unless Erna comes personally to you and tells you to move with her. So you can see here that Erna has been here for a long time, tilling the soil, working the land, and she depends on assistance and on volunteers to come and help her. And that's the same basically with all the farmers that are in difficult areas of Israel. Why do I say difficult areas? Because we're in the Jordan Valley. Now, what does that mean? It means, first of all, it's very hot in the Jordan Valley. I'm talking about in the hundreds. I'm not even saying in the 90s, because here in the middle of the summer, you go into the hundreds. And it's very tough weather, desert weather. And so you need to be quite resilient to be able to work the land in here, and literally desert. On top of it, because it's the Jordan Valley, it has been so contested, though it is promised land. In fact, Joshua and the tribe just crossed on dry ground right here near the Jordan River, which is right nearby. Mount Nebo, the mountain where Moses went up and, Yah took him up and he finished his time on earth, is right here as well. And so we're in a very prophetic Israeli place, and yet it's being contested as if it's not Israeli. And right now, finally, it has gotten now complete permit to be, it's completely legal in every way, shape, and form. And I must say that after we planted the date palms here, that happened. So the planting that Unified did in this place released the blessing for it to be recognized as Israeli land and not any more contested territories. And that's the power of people like us and like you that would be coming in the future with us. Planting in the land, it actually does much more than the physical reality that will bring fruit. And absolutely, the physical reality is important. So there will be no famine in the land. We will have livelihood. We will have food and all of that. But on top of it, it releases a spiritual reality, the reality of the fruit of God in that sense, the fruit of redemption, the fruit of restoration. So it's anointed, it's powerful. When our people are right now working those trees and touching those dates and cleaning up those dates and trimming them so that there will be a very good and healthy harvest. And they're also blessing and praying for them, right? You guys are blessing and praying those trees. Are you blessing? Yes. Are you praying for them? Pray for them that they will be healthy, that they will grow well, that there will be no plagues in the land. So it's much beyond the natural work of farming into the spiritual work of even spiritual warfare for the purpose of reclaiming the land of Israel. You know, the word also tells us in the book of Jeremiah that there will be plantings of vineyards in Samaria. And so you see, and then there is a great prophetic promise when Israel is restored to the land, where it says everyone will sit under their fig trees and under their palm trees, and they will be sitting there, and they will be, that's a sign. The sitting under the fruit trees is actually a sign of prosperity, a sign of blessing, and a sign of restoration. And we are here witnessing that what Elohim said that he would do in Israel, he is absolutely doing. But he needs us to come alongside the Jewish people, support them in the farming arena as well. The place where we are is the Jordan Valley, which means the Jordan River finishes here. It starts on the Golan Heights, goes down to the Sea of Galilee, and it actually dies here right before the Dead Sea. But this is also the border with Samaria. So we are kind of in the border between Samaria and the Jordan Valley, and nearby is Jericho, the first city that was conquered by Joshua, and of course never to be rebuilt again. We know there was a ban on the city, the famous city where Rahab, the prostitute, was sitting on the wall, and she hosted the spies, and because of that, her and her household were saved, and she married into Judah. So her life was really restored by blessing Israel, which I call the key of Abraham, right? I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Genesis 12:3. And so we end that this prophetic area, and it also causes me to think about Samaria, because we're dealing with Samaria that culminates in the Jordan Valley. And there is such a promise about this entire area. It applies to the whole land of Israel. And it says this, "Thus says Adonai, the people surviving the sword found grace in the wilderness where I gave Israel rest." And this is Jeremiah 31. We are in the wilderness. And it says that those that have survived the sword, and you know, the Jewish people have survived the sword for 2,000 years in exile, and now they are surviving the sword right within the land, as Hamas has come to do a terrible massacre on October 7 that murdered so many of the Jewish people and raped women and looted communities. And even those supposedly innocent Gaza civilians did that. They looted the communities and they helped and assisted Hamas and all of that. And there's terror attacks and other attacks within the land from Fatah, also from Hamas, from Hezbollah in the north. And Israel is like trying to survive the sword again. And yet, makes a promise here. And he says that he will give rest to Israel in the wilderness. And we are in the wilderness, in a place that in spite of all of these wars and in spite of those terror attacks, there is a peace that is breathable. And you actually can feel it. When you come here, you can feel there is a shalom. We have a retreat house in this place for people to come and pray, not far away from the caves of Elijah that are here too, as he had the school of the prophets in this area. And so there's a promise about the wilderness. I will give Israel rest. But it keeps on saying, from afar Adonai appeared to me. And this is what he says to Israel. He says, yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Now, for all of those that think that God forgot Israel, or that he removed his mantle of protection because of what happened October 7, think twice. Yes, I'm sure that there is a disciplining happening to our people. But I'm also sure that is a test for the nations on how they're going to relate to Israel during her hardship time. And it would behoove all of us to remember that he said, yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I've drawn you with loving kindness. I want you to understand that the God of Israel is not going to draw Israel just by blows. He's going to draw Israel with loving kindness. And so what are we here to do? We are here as the United Nations for Israel to draw Israel with loving kindness. And in what way do we draw Israel with loving kindness? Because we come alongside Israel during her hard time, during her tough hour, during the time of bereavement, when she's bleeding, and we come alongside and we come and work in their farms, plant fruit trees, go visit wounded soldiers, go and encourage communities, support them when they're evacuated from their places when the rockets were falling and when Hamas was attacking. All these things United Nations for Israel is doing. Why? Because we are representing the Most High God that said that he will draw Israel with loving kindness. And that's exactly the spirit under which we operate. And then it comes with another promise. It says again. Again meaning something had happened. There's been a 2,000-year exile. It says, again, I will build you so you will be revealed, virgin Israel. Again, you will take up your tambourines and ornaments and go out to dance, to do the dances of the merrymakers. In other words, he's going to turn Israel's mourning and bereavement into dancing. He will. And you know, it's quite amazing, because if you think about it, in the midst of the terrible happenings in the land of Israel, where we're surrounded with enemies that want to destroy us, when the United Nations herself has not even denounced Hamas, when the ICC, the International Court of Injustice, is trying to indict our own prime minister. When we have pressure from Biden, from Blinken, from every side, from the UK, every side that they think they are the sovereigns of Israel, Yah is saying that he's going to turn our mourning into dancing. In other words, maybe it started as a tragedy, but it's going to end with a happy ending. And this is the promise right here in Jeremiah 31. And then it goes into the planting. It says again. And why again? Because we'd been exiled for 2,000 years. And so he says, again, I will bring you back. Again, you will plant. Again, I will be kind to you. And we are in the again time, even though many people may have lost the compass when they saw what was happening in Israel. Don't lose the compass. As I said, it starts as a tragedy. It goes on with great struggles, the whole redemption of Israel, but it ends with a happy ending. And so it says again, you will plant vineyards on the hills of Samaria. Planters will plant and use them. In other words, they're going to use them. Now, we planted a vineyard in Kochav HaShachar in Samaria. And we have the border here between Samaria and the Jordan Valley. We have planted an orchard in another place in Samaria. And we have planted another one in Einot Kedem, another, orchard of fruit trees. And so we are fulfilling this prophecy. He says there will again be planters that will plant. And it's not only about the Jewish people doing everything alone, because I want you to think about this for a moment. Who gave you the Bible? Oh, you say God. That's nice, but he used people. And he used Israel to give you the Bible. And so who gave you the gospel? You say God. That's nice too. But the gospel came through a nation. It came to the Jewish people. It came to the Jewish nation. So you got the gospel because the Jewish people existed to bring you the gospel. Now, who brought about Yeshua? I said, well, the Father in heaven, because he's the Son of God. And then he became the Son of Man, and he was born of a virgin. But who was that virgin? That virgin was Miriam, a Jewish lady that gave birth to the Messiah. So there had to be a Jewish lady to do so. And then where was he raised? In Israel. Where? He was born in Bethlehem, near Jerusalem. In Nazareth, he was raised near in the Galilee. And then he went around doing good and healing all them oppressed of the devil, because Elohim was with him. But this was not a Gentile Messiah or a Greek Messiah. He's a Jewish Messiah. And so you can see that everything that you have of value comes from Israel. And now Elohim, is actually waiting. No, I don't think he's waiting anymore. He's expecting that the nations will reciprocate. And where they've received spiritual blessings from Israel during her needy time, during the difficult time, they will come in and they will simply help her. They will plant in the land fruit trees. They will help her in everything that needs to be helped. They will support her when she needs to be supported. I believe that Yah is expecting that to happen from the nations. Not only from us, United Nations for Israel, but honestly, I invite you to join us. And then you're going to be able to do this in the right spirit and in the right way, so that you can come alongside Israel and you can say, thank you, Israel, that you brought me the Bible, the gospel, and the Messiah. And then it says, for there will be a day when watchmen will call out in the hill country of Ephraim, arise, let us go up to Zion, to Adonai our God. You see, watchmen. Now, many of you that are going to be listening to this program, you consider yourself to be intercessors or watchmen. If you're watchmen, then you're hearing that voice. You're hearing the voice that is telling you, come. Let us go up to Zion, to Adonai our God. But why would he call the watchmen to come to Zion, to Adonai their God? In this case, I believe the watchmen from the nations are being called to help Israel, to come alongside Israel. Again, not with a condescending spirit. Oh, we are going to help Israel. No. Israel is the mother of the nations. To help Israel in a way with the same kind of respect and honor that you would have to a mother. If your mother would be in trouble, you would come alongside your mother and you would help her and you will respect her and you would honor her, because it says that he that honors father and mother, it shall go well with them on the earth, right? They will have a long life. They will be blessed. So we need to understand that that's the kind of spirit by which the watchmen from the nations need to come. Our tour is here on a tour called From Devastation to Resurrection. at the time when there is no tourism in Israel because of the war, the Iron Swords War, and because of what happened here, the massacre on October 7th, we were here then too. We were here with 80 delegates from the United Nations for Israel running up and down to the bomb shelters, and some of them even stayed 2 weeks more to help us to help the evacuees and give them food vouchers and things like that.
Israel needs friends all over the world. What we have been through over the last days, it was disaster. No words to describe the evil. We leave Farimon, we get to a safe place, and it was all day sirens, goes on and on. With your help and with other good people help, we succeeded to bring 100 families to this hotel until Sunday noon.
I'm a representative of Malaysia. My government has been supporting the Palestinians to do the glide parachute. They train them in Malaysia, so we know about it. So we are making restitutions. We committed already $5,000 US. Thank you, brother.
You're very good people. I have tears. Oh.
It's a double hug.
And now we have again a select group of people coming from many different nations, like even Malaysia that doesn't have a relationship with Israel, and Taiwan, and Hong Kong, China, and Sweden, and UK, and Switzerland, and Mexico, and from many, many nations. They've come for what purpose? In the midst of a war where it's not even certain that the planes would be flying, and they were willing to put their money by faith that the planes would be flying, and they arrived here to help and to bless and to come alongside Israel during her difficult time. And as we've been going around literally alone, because there was no other tourists, yesterday we just met one more Nigerian group, but besides that, until then we had seen no tourists at all. And I'm asking to myself, where is everyone? Why is it that Christian tourism comes to Israel when things are easy, and they don't come when things are tough, and you don't come when things are difficult and when Israel is bleeding? Isn't this the time to come? Matthew 25:32 tells us, because I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was in prison, you came to visit me. And I didn't have clothes, you clothed me. Well, this is the time for that, because Yeshua was talking about the nations being put to the right and to the left like sheep and goat nations. And he said, when he was telling that story in Matthew 25, he says, and when the nations will ask Yeshua, when did we see you hungry and we fed you? When did we see you, thirsty and we gave you to drink? When did we see you naked and we clothed you? When did we see you in prison? We came to visit you. And he said, as long as you did it to the least of these my brethren, and my Jewish brethren, because there were the Jewish brethren around him, you've done it unto me. So this entire scripture about the sheep and the goat nations is only about the nations reciprocating to the Jewish people for what they received. The blessings, the spiritual blessings, and coming back and saying, in your hard times, when you're naked, when you're hungry, when you're being attacked, when you're being persecuted, when you're being falsely accused and maligned, we, the believers in the Messiah Yeshua, the Jewish Messiah, have come to stand by you, to help you, to feed you, to clothe you, to visit you, because as we're doing that to the Jewish people, we're doing that unto the Messiah himself, because he is a Jew.